over at Back Classic NBA Podcast. I am Jason Mann, and with me as usual is Rich. Hello, Rich.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot. You know, we got some, got another exciting finals brewing. Hopefully, exciting finals. Of course, we don't know going in, but Warriors and Cavs, fourth straight finals, setting some NBA history. NBA history they'd already set last year with 3 straight finals. Now, fourth time head-to-head, unprecedented in NBA history, and we're going to delve into a little bit of NBA Finals history, some similar situations of teams that are repeatedly battling each other, players who've gone to a lot of straight finals. LeBron James making some history, of course, as well. So going to throw out some fun facts, delve into some fun trivia, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we'll get to delve into a little bit of the history leading up to the series, things that have kind of played into it, things that, you know, guys that have set records and all that sort of stuff we talked about. We're trying to think back of what we did last year. We might have done a similar show last year, but screw it, it's this year. It's 2018. It's 4 in a row. We got some good stuff. I don't recall what we did last year, or if we did. Maybe we did it a few years ago, the NBA Finals, you know, the history of it. But I mean, there's so much more in this year. Like, even if we did do it last year, I feel like there's so much more precedent that's been done by this 4 in a row, and so much more precedent by someone like a LeBron James, and the fact that we're getting this 4th matchup in a row, it somehow, that 4 just seems like so much. It seems, and we're going to talk about like the 2015 NBA Finals, which seems like it was a decade ago. It seems like so long ago that happened. So there's a lot to kind of delve into and a lot to dig into in terms of these two teams, and then a lot of the history around you know, what we have going on here with, I mean, 4 straight finals of the same matchups. And Jason, I know that you're probably in this camp, but I think we should at least talk about it anyway. Are you fine with this? Would you have preferred something different, or are you kind of okay? Because my buddies were asking me, hey, what do you think about this? It's 4 in a row. Isn't that kind of boring? And I said, well, you know, it's actually a better topic for my podcast. So selfishly, like, I kind of enjoy that they're doing this, but also, you know, going through this and looking at other matchups, which we're going to talk about, I like the idea that we can now always, and not to say that we couldn't do it with 3 in a row or even 2 in a row, but it seems like for some reason with that 4 in a row that now we can just forever, for 30 years from now, 50 years from now, we can always kind of have this benchmark of, hey, there was a time where these two teams battled one another 4 times, you know, in a row in the NBA Finals. And I think that's kind of cool. I think I like sort of that generationally defined rivalry in the NBA Finals. And I don't know, do you kind of feel the same way, or did you want like Boston to make a heroic run to the finals or whatever?
I mean, I'm okay with the way it happened. I think it still has some intrigue. I do think, you know, for the purpose of history, just to see, you know, obviously if the Warriors win, they would be able to win, you know, 3 out of 4, and where they kind of are going to start to stack among the, you know, great dynasties of all time. And if the Cavs can somehow pull it off, what that means for LeBron. And, you know, so there's a lot of adding on to that history potentially. Of course, it could also just be, you know, the Warriors smash the Cavs and not that interesting if it's kind of a repeat of last year. So, you know, obviously we'll have to see how that goes. I would have been, I kind of would have liked to have a little bit of a change. I mean, I think Houston going in against the Cavs would have been really interesting. My aversion to Boston winning would kind of keep me from wanting them to win, although, you know, they were a tremendous story with, you know, just how young, you know, their key players were, and you know, that nature of things. So there would have certainly been interest in that as well. I mean, you know, of course, you know, we're going to be interested in the finals no matter what happens, because, you know, how avid of NBA fans we are. But yeah, I'm okay with this. I don't think it's like ruining the game. I don't think it's like super bad, or like it means that the NBA isn't competitive or anything like that. I mean, obviously, you know, these two teams battled through a lot of very trying circumstances, you know, to get where they were. Both series going to a Game 7 for the first time since 1979. So, you know, I don't think it's like, I don't think it's super bad for the league, but I am, you know, I was looking forward to something a little bit new, but I'm okay with what we got as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, and that's, you know, I about halfway through the game yesterday, when we're recording this on the 29th, so yesterday being the Warriors Rockets game, I kind of was like, you know what, I'm okay with the Rockets winning. It'll be kind of fun. It'll be different. And then when the Warriors, it was one of those things where like I don't really care. Like I can have fun with all of those. You know what I mean? It's basketball. I'm cool with any basketball. And the way I usually do it is like I either root for like absolute chaos, like complete disregard, like just unbelievable chaos, like the Indiana Pacers or whatever make the NBA Finals. I don't, you know, like I like that, or I like something that can really be like looked upon as, okay, this, you know, it might be stable, it might be kind of boring at times, but it's also like they're creating history in there, and that's, you know, every NBA Finals is going to create some amount of history. But I think, you know, we can have a very special show here that we can always look back on because it's been 4 straight, because these guys have done this, because there's unprecedented, achievements going on because of this. So I kind of enjoy that aspect of it too. So yeah, I kind of root for, like, it would have been fine if it was like Boston and Houston in the finals. Like, I would have been fine with that because that's absolute chaos, but I kind of like this as well. So I'm good with either thing. We just like basketball, and anything we can make history about. We can, if it happened, we can talk about it for sure. So this will be pretty fun to check out, but I'm good with either one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We do like basketball. We want to make that, say that for the
right.
record.
In case you weren't sure, basketball
right.
We enjoy. So
yeah, if the 210 or whatever episodes of the show that we've done so far didn't indicate that we enjoy basketball,
I actually, I've done so many wrestling podcasts that I think I hate wrestling, but I still like basketball. Right. So.
Oh, that's good.
No, I know. There's some wrestling I enjoy and some I don't like, but hey,
sure, yeah. So anyway, going into some history of, as we've said, this is the first time that anyone has done 4 straight NBA Finals, but there is a decently extensive history of repeat NBA Finals matchups that's worth exploring, and the first such occasion happened in 52 and 53, the Minneapolis Lakers against the New York Knicks, and the Lakers won both times. In 52, the Lakers had a home court advantage after going 40 and 62 in the regular season, and they had won the 49 BAA Finals and the 50 NBA Finals the first year after the merger. They'd also won the 48 NBL Finals, so they'd won 3 championships in a row, I guess, theoretically in 3 different leagues, although obviously 2 leagues merged into one. But they had lost in 1951 to the eventual champion Rochester Royals. That was George Mikan had a serious injury, I believe broke his leg in that series, leading to the Royals winning there. And then the Knicks had lost to the Royals in that 51 final, so they were back for another chance for the second year in a row. But the Lakers were able to take Game 1 in overtime, 83-79. The series went back and forth through Game 7, which Minneapolis handled pretty quickly, 82-65. Of course, the Lakers had the great George Mikan, Jim Pollard, Vern Mickelson, and Sterling Martin, those guys. The Knicks aren't quite as well known, but they had some interesting players like George Gallatin and they kind of rotating cast, Dick McGuire, lots of some interesting guys there, sort of more obscure in history because obviously the Knicks never won the championship. 53, they went back at it again, and that gave the Lakers their 5th title in 6 years. The Knicks would, in fact, not make it back to the finals until 1970. In fact, they would barely make the playoffs, and just a handful of times up until then they really went through a period where they struggled a whole lot. And the Lakers did make it back to the finals in 59. They were kind of an underdog that year. That was their last time in Minneapolis. They moved to Los Angeles, and they would get to the finals a whole lot of times, which we'll get into a bit, but they would not win a title until 1972.
Yeah, the next time they'd win a title, 72, and then there's a lot of Jerry West misery in between there, which we'll talk about in extensive detail in a little bit. But our next series that we're going to talk about repeats 1957 and 58, the St. Louis Hawks versus the Boston Celtics. This is a famous one we have talked about many, many times on this show. So we'll briefly kind of touch on it just again here. 1957, the Hawks and the Celtics meet in their first NBA Finals matchup. Hawks have been pretty bad dating back pretty much to their days as the Tri-Cities Blackhawks and the Milwaukee Hawks. They had a lot of struggles in the early years of the NBA. And 2 years into their tenure in St. Louis, they were in the finals, despite, as we talked about kind of very interestingly, a 34 and 38 regular season record. So they were not a good regular season team, really turned it on in the playoffs, made a good run. And we'll get to them here in a sec of how well they did. I mean, it was very, very close. Celtics, they were a perennial playoff team for quite a few years under Red Auerbach. They, of course, were led by Ed McCauley at that time, and they were good. They would always make the playoffs, but they just could not get over the hump. Red Auerbach made a risky little trade by trading Ed McCauley for Bill Russell, and then some good things happened after that. Obviously, some other things happened, drafting Tommy Heinsohn, getting everything together. It just kind of all coalesced at the exact right moment. Auerbach, Russell, Sharman, Tommy Heinsohn, as we mentioned, Bob Cousy's there. They beat the Hawks in that 57 series in 7 games. So it was a very close series, very good series as well. And we've talked about as well of how different, history would be if possibly the Hawks won that title and does the Celtics dynasty. We had an episode a few months ago where we kind of dug into that a little bit, which I thought was pretty cool. But anyway, 1957, the Celtics, of course, win. They beat the Hawks. This included the only Game 7 in history to be decided in double overtime, 125 to 123. So pretty fun game there. 1958, the two teams meet again with the Hawks beating the Celtics in 6. So the Hawks get their title. They knock off the Celtics and they put them dead for good. The Hawks are never coming back, or the Celtics are never coming back. They're dead. They're gone. They had their one little title and they're out, except that's not at all what happened, of course.
Of course, yes. Yeah, worth noting that Bob Pettit scored for 50 points in that Game 6 for the in the finals, which was I think that's a finals deciding game record, and that was a record at the time. It was surpassed later by Elgin Baylor, but one of the great performances of all time. Of course, Bill Russell was hurt in that series, missed a game or two, and was limited in that final Game 6. That the Celtics never tired of telling anybody that, but that's the only time Bill Russell ever lost in the finals, 11 out of 12 times, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. And Bob Pettit's a guy I think we will always on the show say, like, if you have not ever gone back and sort of dug into Bob Pettit a little bit more, really great player. I don't know that he necessarily gets the credit he deserves, but awesome player, dominant player. I mean, just, do yourself a favor and just dig into Bob Pettit a little bit. I think you'll come away appreciating him a lot more than you probably do right now.
Right, it really helped define power forward position. Yep. Was really one of the early pioneers in terms of like weight training, and was just this guy who could get a shot off in almost any situation. Was a really a very pivotal player in the growth of the game. So speaking of the Hawks and the Celtics, they would do this again. They would the Hawks would miss the finals in '59. The Minneapolis Lakers would upset them thanks to an upstart Elgin Baylor. But then the Hawks would come back and get to the finals in '60-61. But the Celtics, they as we mentioned, they were pretty good. They won 8 straight championships between '59 and '66, in this case the 61 series did go 7 games. It was fairly competitive. The 60 series was not super competitive. The Celtics handled both these series pretty well. It was the Hawks were kind of lucky to take that one in 7. The Celtics by this point had evolved into the more complete team. Although the Hawks they obviously had Pettit, they had Lenny Wilkins, they had Cliff Hagan, some really good players as well. But the Celtics obviously they beat pretty much everybody during that time. So they were no shame in losing to them.
Yeah, of course, and we'll get into a little bit more of the Celtics, but they win 8 straight, drop 1 in 1967, which we'll talk about in a second, and of course win 2 more, but you probably know that already if you're listening to the show. Yes. But I thought this is a pretty good comp for what we got going on right now with the Warriors and the Cavs. There's 4 finals matchups in 5 years and 2 consecutive matchups, but really our next matchup is probably the best comp that we could possibly come up with, and probably the best comp in that we're ever going to kind of look at here, and it's the Lakers and the Boston Celtics, and there are quite a few here. We start with 1962-63, so of course in the midst of Boston's 8 straight, that have back-to-back series with the Lakers, 1962 and 1963. In 63, the Celtics were making their 7th straight trips to the finals, and they won easily 4-2 after taking the first 2 games of the 7-game series. And so of course, as we're going to talk about here in a bit, the Lakers always kind of can get there. They can't quite knock off the Celtics because the Celtics are very good, but it will happen quite a few times. So we have 6-2 and 6-3, as we mentioned. Celtics would face off with the Warriors in 1964 before getting back to the Lakers in 65-66, which brings us to that series as well, 1965 and 1966 with the Lakers and the Celtics yet again. Celtics making their 9th consecutive championship after John Havlicek sold the ball in the Eastern Division Finals and dominated. They would end up dominating the Lakers in this series. They were without Elgin Baylor at this time, so they were able to beat them in 5 games, which is huge, obviously. In 1966, Boston edges out a 95-93 Game 7, so really, really important, really close game there. This is Red Auerbach's final game as a coach as well, as completed the win in front of the hometown fans at the Boston Garden as well. So huge moment there for them in 66 to kind of cap it off the career of Red Auerbach. And then in 1967, as we mentioned, the Celtics lost to the 76ers in the Eastern Division Finals. And we've had that discussion about that series for a while, where that was like Bill Russell's first time, as player coach. And there were some questions. Hey, look, we've been doing this great thing with that Red, Bill Russell takes over and, now we're losing. And, obviously that would be squashed pretty quickly because they would win a few more. But, the Lakers in that 67 season as well decided to do the same, and they would lose to the Warriors in the semifinals. So neither Lakers or Celtics in the 67 finals. But then they all decided to run it back in 1968. And once again, we have Lakers versus Celtics.
Yeah. And, that at that point, 68, the Celtics, they were back. They had a chance to win their 10th championship in 12 seasons. And then, they beat the Lakers in 6 games, pretty handily in that series. But 69, things changed because the Lakers brought in Will Chamberlain, the old Bill Russell nemesis, and they were an aging team, but they obviously had 3 of the greatest superstars in the history of the game at that point: Elgin Baylor, Will Chamberlain, Jerry West. And the Celtics were, showing a little bit of signs of decline. They were, they were probably the older team overall, even though the 3 stars were older there. But the Celtics had not really been able to incorporate, very many young players into the team. Havlicek was the only guy who was, really a prime age. Everybody else that they were relying on heavily, had been cast offs from other teams like, Don Nelson and Bailey Howell, who were good players, but were getting a bit older or had been, guys who were not really superstars. It was really one underrated part of how Auerbach was able to kind of sustain that dynasty throughout those years as GM. But they made the playoffs only as a 4th place team. It looked like the young upstarts were going to be able to beat them, but Boston proved everyone wrong. They were able to get through the playoffs, beat the upstart Knicks in an upset, and even bigger upset, beat the Lakers. And that was the first time the road team was able to win a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. It's obviously a rare occurrence in NBA history.
Yeah, it's. Me personally, I thought the Lakers were such a shot that I filled up a bunch of balloons and got it already, and apparently it just did not. Yeah. I feel terrible. I'm so sorry.
You and Jack can't cook, obviously.
Why would you not get the balloons ready? Come on, look at our team. We got Baylor, we got Chamberlain, we got West. I'm getting the champagne, I'm getting the balloons, we're ready to go. Right? Yeah. How could this go wrong? The Celtics are old as hell. There's no way. Come on. But
yeah, you're not going to be able to instantly blow up all those balloons. I mean, you have to have them ready, obviously. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you can't just.
It's just smart planning, honestly.
Right. Yeah. I'm pro. Getting the balloons ready, but
I mean, maybe cover. I don't know. I'm not really sure you can do about that. But I mean, hey, everyone likes balloons.
Yeah, right. So that's of course.
Honestly, I think the Celtics are a bit of spoil sports for not liking the balloons, for being so anti-balloon. Honestly, right. No one ever talks about that.
No, yeah, I mean, who doesn't like balloons? They should just use them anyway. I don't know why they.
Well, I'm not surprised Jerry West doesn't like balloons, because Jerry West doesn't like anything.
No, Jerry West would hate balloons. Yeah, I mean,
obviously,
Jerry West. Yeah, he goes to children's parties and just immediately pops them. He might still have like PTSD about balloons. I bet they're like, oh, Uncle Jerry's coming over, like get rid of all the balloons. Yeah. He's gonna get upset. He's like,
no balloons. Yeah,
grumbles under his breath and gets really upset.
I could see that. That's definitely true. Yes. So, yeah, when you're talking about this, I was thinking about the record for West and Baylor in the finals. Baylor was 0-7, West was 1-8. The fact that the parallel is to LeBron. I mean, LeBron's obviously 3-5 at this point. We'll see how it goes. Even if he falls to 3-6, obviously the finals record isn't so good. But you kind of track of their place in the league versus LeBron's place in the league. West and Baylor were, probably each at time maybe the best player in the NBA. I mean, you got Wilt there, during that time as well. So, maybe they're, 1B or whatever at different times as, going through. You got Oscar Robertson too. So you got a loaded league, but there certainly were contenders for the best player in the game. I don't think they were ever quite as high as LeBron's basically been either definitely the best player, or in the conversation for that for about 12 years or so probably. So, but I do think that there is very much a similarity between them and between LeBron in terms of their roles in their career as being individually brilliant, but of kind of being the foil for some of the great dynasties of their day, especially this Warriors dynasty.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of time where people bring up like the Wilt and LeBron comparisons, or at least they had come up for a while there, where it's like great individual player, but can win a few titles here and there, but not like the dominant guy of his era, not a guy that can just win a championship every so often. And I was always kind of unsure of that comp. I never really liked it all that much, but I do like the West and Baylor ones because they are guys that are just like statistics off the board and great players, and it really takes nothing away from them, but they just could not sometimes get through or get over the hump and whatnot, and maybe not win as many titles as people sort of expected them to do. And I don't know if the LeBron thing still kind of exists. I feel like it's been pretty interesting as of late that people have really kind of let that narrative kind of go, and people are really starting to appreciate him this year. I could tell it this year more than any year. It really feels like people are like, oh yeah, like who really cares that he only has X amount of rings or whatever. This guy's an incredible player or whatever. But yeah, I do get the same. Yeah, it is a very good comp, and I do enjoy that comp a lot because I think it does sort of relate the two, because it shouldn't take anything away from those two guys that they only won their title or whatever even though they were there all the time. And I think it's super impressive to get to the finals as many times as they got to, because that's hard to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's really, really tough to do. And yeah, we're starting to maybe appreciate that with a little bit with LeBron too, that it's like, hey, look, you might not win them all, but God, man, that's really hard every single year to be in the NBA finals. That's so tough. It's not very easy at all. So yeah.
And honestly, it's harder now than it was in Weston Baylor's day. I mean, they most of the time they played in a league with 8 or 9 teams, and
sure,
it was hard then. But it's super hard now, and the fact that they're doing what they're doing and the Warriors are doing what they're doing, I mean, is obviously super impressive. But before we get on to the rest of the series, I just wanted to review Bill Russell's record in a Game 7, because he was 10-0 in Game 7s in his career, which of course is just amazing. As we talked about 57 NBA Finals, in the 59 Eastern Conference Finals against or Division Finals against the Syracuse Nationals, the 1960 NBA Finals again against the Hawks. This was the one that went Game 7, not 61. I got that mixed up. But the 62 Conference Finals against the Warriors, the 62 NBA Finals against the Lakers, the 63 Eastern Division Finals against the Royals, the 65 Eastern Division Finals against the 76ers with Chamberlain again, the 66 NBA Finals, as we talked about, the 68 Eastern Division Finals. I keep saying conference, I mean division finals against the Sixers, and then finally, as we talked about, the 69 NBA Finals. But it was like, I think 3 times against the Lakers in Game 7s, and I think 3 times against Wilt in Game 7s, and twice against Bob Pettit in Game 7s. I mean, beating all these players every single time. I mean, some of it obviously, there was some luck involved, and because some of these were extremely close calls. But just coming through every single time in those situations, just really amazing.
Yeah, no, and that's something too. I mean, it's just got to be maddening to be anybody else that's playing against him. It's just, he cannot be beat in a Game 7. It's pretty incredible there. But we'll move on now to the 1972-73 Los Angeles Lakers and New York Knicks. Yes, the Lakers are still hanging around here in 1972. They're back in the finals again. They were also in 1970 as well, but they lost because, of course, they lost in the NBA Finals in 1970. Finally, though, in 1972, the Lakers won a then record 69 regular season games. They had 33 in a row. Of course, we've talked about that many times. It's a historic streak until, obviously the Warriors did their thing. And they took a 4-1 win over the Knicks in the finals behind MVP Wilt Chamberlain. So a great moment for Wilt to finally get a dominant finals performance, become the MVP, the team to finally get their win. Everything kind of feels good. It's all great. And they run it back the year later in 1973 with both teams back. The Knicks made up for the 72 finals, though, when they beat the Lakers 4-1 on their own. They lost Game 1 and swept the rest of the series. So the Knicks get their title after a few years as well. And the Lakers are back in misery land. So good for them. So,
wow. But things would turn around for them relatively soon afterwards. So,
yes, the Lakers are going to be okay, everybody. Well, I don't know. Nowadays, I'm not sure. I don't know about the current Lakers.
Well, yeah, right now. Yeah. But we'll see what happens this offseason, I guess. But,
right,
but yes, they another instance where 3 out of 4 years, 2 years in a row. So obviously a historic rivalry there for a brief amount of time. And then next we have the 78 and 79 with the Seattle Supersonics against the Washington Bullets, and the Sonics were able to, after a 5-17 start to the season, they changed coaches, went to Lenny Wilkins instead of Bob Hopkins, and turned things around where they were able to make the playoffs, and both, in fact, the Sonics and the Bullets were big underdogs that year, but were able to stage Cinderella seasons in the playoffs, so to speak, and were able to make the finals. Washington, it was their third NBA Finals after making it in 75 and 71 when they were in Baltimore, and the Bullets won 7 games over 18 days, a very extended stretch there. They took Game 7 on the road. However, they matched up again 1979, and Seattle won in 5 games, I believe. And in fact, the Bullets have not, or Bullets and Wizards franchise has not been to the finals ever since. In fact, I'm not even sure they've been to the conference finals since then. So,
that's interesting. Yeah, I wonder. I don't think they have. Let me make sure that just in case we don't get frantic. But yeah, you might be right. I don't recall any year where they would have. I mean, obviously they didn't do it in the 90s, and I don't think they did in the 80s, and I don't remember Gilbert Arenas being in the conference finals. But
it hasn't happened since.
Let's see. Nope. Yeah, first round,
sure
semis, semi. Yeah, we got nothing. Oh boy, sorry guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Sonics, they did go back to the finals in '96, losing to the Bulls, and unfortunately,
Say it quiet.
There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be angry at you for typing
just
this,
be
but
quiet.
Again, the franchise made it in 2012 as the Thunder. Of course, a lot of Seattle people were very mad at you for saying that, but. I just want to make sure to point out
It
that
counts.
Rich typed that,
I mean,
not
hey,
myself.
if we got to do this dumb Hornets thing, we got to do the Sonics and the Thunder. I don't, if it's up to me, we wouldn't do it.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the Nationals are the Sixers, so
Yeah.
I feel like if the Nationals are the Sixers, then the Sonics are the Thunder, despite the distaste about that.
Right.
So,
when Seattle gets their team back, you guys can take the franchise history back, and this episode will be negated or whatever. I hope that Oklahoma City just doesn't let them have it. It's just for no reason whatsoever. They're like, no, that's our history.
yes, that would not go over well.
No, I don't think so at all by anybody. But part of me, because I'm not a Seattle Supersonics fan, I would want that. Then they're like that weird one that and obviously it's not an NFL podcast, but when the Cleveland Browns, became the Baltimore Ravens, and then 2 years later became the Cleveland Browns again, but then didn't have any of the history or whatever. It was just what? Why are we doing this? And then I think they eventually got it. I don't even know how that works. Who cares? NBA.
Yeah, I believe they do have it. So I don't remember there being a thing about it, but I believe you.
Okay, there we go. This is not NFL. Yeah, we are not going to do NFL podcast because
we are not bound by to be accurate about the NFL on this podcast. So just
right. So
to be clear, if you're going to tweet us about it, don't
please don't. Just think again and don't do it. Tweet us.
You can correct our NBA mistakes.
Yeah, you can call those out. Instead, so if you're going to tweet us about this NFL mistake, I instead implore you to go to Basketball Reference and find a random player and then say, hey, do you guys remember this guy? And that's a much better use of your time.
All right, that would be a lot of fun for us. So,
all right,
talk about Otto Graham on the Rochester Royals.
Exactly. Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that could be. Yeah. You could make it. It could be. I was trying to think. I only got baseball guys. Yeah, Otto Graham's I think the only football guy. We did an episode about that too. That's a pretty fun episode. Two sport athletes. Sure. Anyway, 82-83, Lakers, Philadelphia 76ers. Lakers are back. Yeah, as you said, everything's going well. Pat Riley's at the helm now. Everything's going good. Yeah. They got Magic Johnson. They're in the playoffs. It's their first season, of course, for Pat Riley. They win the finals in 6 games over the Philadelphia 76ers. Next year, the Lakers and the 76ers meet again in the finals. This is the third time in 4 years that this matchup had happened. So you have 1980, 82, and 83. After LA took, obviously, the first 2 series in 80 and 82, Philadelphia came roaring back and won the remaining games of this, the first 2 games of the series, and then Philadelphia comes back and wins the title. Lakers would stay strong for the rest of the decade for pretty much. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. And the 76ers, they unfortunately would not make the finals again until 2001. And then, of course, have not made it since then. So,
yeah, of course, the Sixers added the incumbent MVP, so they actually didn't count the title.
Right. No, they don't hang any banners. Together, they actually didn't touch the trophy.
Right.
You get completely negated, like the Warriors last year. I mean, that thing's not even. We're going to talk about the finals, but it's not an official result on any level whatsoever.
No.
So if you had
if
you had good players, it doesn't count. I think James Worthy. Have you heard of him? I think he got added to one of these teams. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can't add good players to a good team. It just negates everything.
No. It does. It doesn't count.
All these guys we talked about, none of these guys added any good players ever. They just, were the teams that they were, and they made it. They didn't add. They didn't subtract.
They drafted everybody the same year, and they just grew organically. And they
God for the reserve
else,
clause. Yeah, the reserve clause is really pulled through in this NBA history. So
as a sports god intended. So 84 and 85, we get the Lakers and the Celtics again, reviving their rivalry from the 60s. It went a little bit differently this time, although the first time in 1984, Larry Bird did lead the Celtics to a 7-game series win over the Lakers. Tragic Johnson was Magic Johnson's nickname for a little while as things well, but the Lakers were not to be denied in 1985, despite a huge Game 1 loss that was called the Boston Massacre. The Lakers
heavy on the nicknames. This series,
back.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, it was the Memorial Day Massacre because it happened on Memorial Day. But
that seems
there's a Boston Massacre too. I think that was a real thing. I'm not just making that up.
The Memorial Day Massacre. That seems a little. I don't know. I might want to find a different.
I guess that is maybe not ideal. But anyway, it was a more innocent time, I guess. But so Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, despite being like 138 years old, was dominant in that series, won MVP, and yes, the Lakers were finally able to reverse the jinx or whatever it was that reversed their years and years Lakers of losing to the Celtics were able to win and take charge in the series, and then the two teams would battle again in '87 with the Lakers capping off the 3 out of 4 years by winning the rubber match.
Absolutely. And then we're going to go to 88 and 89 here. This is the Lakers once again, and this is the Detroit Pistons now. So the Lakers obviously defeated the Celtics in 87, as we talked about, and they got the repeat here. They took the series against the Pistons in 7 games. They could not manage a three-peat, though, in 1989, and we have talked about the series as well. Byron Scott missed the entire series. Magic Johnson pulls his hamstring during Game 2, and the Pistons sweep the Lakers pretty easily in that back-to-back. The Lakers would be back in the finals by 1991, but, of course, Michael Jordan was also there to meet them, and that did not go well for Magic or any of the older Lakers. Detroit, they would go back-to-back. They would win in 1990 and then make it to consecutive NBA Finals again in 2004 and 2005, which we will not be talking about today. But, so they had a little bit of a gap, and I think they're going to start another gap for quite a while after 05. It is going to probably be a while for Detroit, but hey, maybe Blake Griffin turns things around. But, yeah, Lakers, obviously the team do some good stuff in the decade. They moved from the Celtics over to the Pistons. They actually had, that's kind of interesting. They had the Sixers, obviously, earlier in the decade. Then they have the Celtics, then they have the Pistons. So they did a lot of repeat finals appearances here. So the Lakers are always kind of in the mix there and always, willing to come out of the West for you. Even in the 60s and the 70s, the 80s, they're just kind of always there, those damn Lakers.
Not the 2010s, but otherwise, yes, that is definitely correct.
Right, they're always in the mix.
Yes. So now we go to 97-98 to the Utah Jazz against the Chicago Bulls. We've noted looking at the Western Conference stuff in the early 90s that the Jazz came very close to going to the finals in 1992. That would have been an interesting battle between the two teams in 92, which would have been quite fun. The Blazers were able to, of course, were able to get through in that time, and the Jazz were a franchise that Stockton Malone were awesome for a long time, but they peaked very late in their careers and were able to and obviously Jordan and Pippen had notable longevity as well. So these were teams that were on the older side during this time. But they had been a solid playoff team for quite a while. The Bulls had won the championship in '96, of course, as one of the great teams of all time, winning 72 games. Beating Seattle, and of course had their first three-peat from '91 to '93, and they beat the Jazz both times in 6 games. And Jordan was in '97. They were named. Jordan was named MVP for the 5th time in as many finals appearances in '98. The series went almost exactly the same, and the Bulls won again in 6 games, as we said, and Jordan again won MVP. So, but the Bulls couldn't keep it going. They all got pretty sick of each other. They all went their separate ways. Jordan retired. Pippen went to the Rockets. They kept Tony Kukoc, right?
Kukoc stayed. Yeah, Kukoc stayed. I think for the next half a year, and then he was sent off as well. So.
Yeah. So they have not made a final since. The Jazz were able to keep it going, with some playoff runs. They had a pretty good year in '99, but would never make the finals again, and have not been able to replicate the success. Although they've had some decent playoff teams, Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer years, and this new iteration of the Jazz seems pretty interesting with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell as a potential awesome rookie. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's kind of interesting that 97, 98 these teams are kind of the toast of this NBA era, and then now they just have not been back ever since then. But things are looking a little bit better for the Jazz. I guess the Bulls have some pieces, but the Jazz definitely seem to be on a better trajectory there. But get to our final repeat series before, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more Warriors-Cavs here. It is the San Antonio Spurs versus the Miami Heat, and what's funny, this 2013-2014, this feels and seems and kind of is like so long ago, yet it still features like prime LeBron, and like he's still prime. It's nuts. It just, you go back in the series, you look at some of the names, you're like, oh yeah, that's like a long time ago. I think what's weird is I think it helps that Kyrie has been, or not Kyrie, Kawhi Leonard's sort of been gone. He obviously didn't play at all, other than kind of a few games last year. So he feels like a distant player right now. Tim Duncan's obviously retired. Manu and Parker are on their last legs, and it's like it's still LeBron, just like being LeBron. He's still pretty good, and it's like 6-7 years later, it's still just kind of the same thing. But anyway, this is a Miami Heat. As their second consecutive championship, of course, in 2013, they defeated the Thunder the year prior. This is an awesome 7-game series over the Spurs. This is probably one of the best playoff series ever. I think I would probably put it there. I don't know that I've ever had as much fun watching an NBA playoff series than I had that 2013 NBA Finals. It was just like two great teams, great matchups, just legacies on the line, just everything was perfect. Comebacks, it all kind of worked. I think this is going to be a tough one to ever kind of beat here. But interesting enough, I forgot about this as well. This is the first finals defeat for the Spurs. Pretty much every other time the Spurs made it to the finals, they won. This time they did not, though. They came back the next year, 2014. San Antonio was kind of retooled a little bit. Kawhi Leonard had sort of emerged and become a great big part of their team, and just everything kind of clicked, and they blew out Miami in four or five games to take the series in 2014. And interestingly enough, so since 2014, San Antonio, of course, has not made it to the finals since. And Miami hasn't either, but they, of course, lost LeBron after that season. And you've probably heard of him. He went to Cleveland and has now made 4 straight finals with Cleveland after making 4 straight with Miami. So that's 8 straight. So that's interesting. I wonder if we have other fun facts about that.
We might. It's possible.
I hope we do. That'd be nice.
So teams that have gone to 4 straight finals, it is exceptionally rare. In fact, only 6 teams have ever done it. The 57 to 66 Celtics did it for 10 seasons in a row, which of course is amazing. The other teams have all just done it 4 times. The 82 to 85 Lakers, the 84 to 87 Celtics, the 11 through 14 Heat, and the 15 to 18 Cavs and 15 to 18 Warriors, of course, have accomplished that feat this year. And I previously had an accurate tweet that said the 50s Lakers did it, although I was incorrect. They went to 3 straight finals from 48 to 50 and 52 to 54, but they missed in 51. However, George Mikan himself did make 4 straight finals if you include the 47 and 48 NBL, the 49 BAA, and the 50 NBA. Because in 47 he did with the Chicago American Gears, who then folded, and then Mikan went to the Lakers. So that is it. Some impressive company for the Cavs and the Warriors to be in.
Absolutely, yes. And I'm going to count the Chicago American Gears in the NBL. So we're going to count it. So Mike can take your bow.
Yes.
It's your turn there. But
yes.
This is, of course, as we mentioned, LeBron's 8th straight NBA Finals. And I didn't know this until today. I kind of looked at this, and it's a little bit of a caveat. It's kind of just like this weird random fun fact. But I think LeBron's career is starting to kind of become that where there'd been forever like a Kareem and Wilt thing where you'd look up some random stat and it'd be like Kareem or Wilt, or only Kareem has this amount of 30-point, 10 rebound games or whatever. Only Wilt Chamberlain's done this. We're starting to get kind of weird LeBron ones starting now because he's starting to get a little older. He's just putting together these amazing things. This one, so he's made the finals 8 straight years. Okay, LeBron James made the finals 8 straight years. That is longer than all but one franchise, San Antonio. That's of all of the franchises' postseason streaks. So LeBron has made more finals in a row than any team but San Antonio has made consecutive playoffs in a row. So the Spurs are at 21 seasons. 21 seasons in a row for the Spurs make the playoffs. That's fine. 98 to 2018. We got them or whatever. The longest streak of consecutive NBA playoff appearances are the Warriors and the Rockets right now. 2013 to 2018 for the Warriors, and 2013 and 2018 for the Rockets. LeBron has made 8 straight NBA finals. No, it's other team other than the Spurs have made 8 straight playoff series. What? How is that possible?
That is really quite that's quite stellar. Yeah, the Hawks unfortunately had the second longest one, which was broken this year thanks to their badness. But yes, 21 years. I mean, of course, 21 years is amazing for the Spurs. That's I believe the longest in NBA history. The fact that LeBron himself has a longer final streak than any other team has an active playoff streak is just that's pretty mind-blowing.
Right, like LeBron was making finals and the Warriors were still like trying to figure out what they were going to be and getting the pieces and being excited about David Lee. That's
right. Yeah.
It's just what
a time.
Like the Rockets were just like, hey, we got this James Harden guy. This will be pretty fun. Like, let's see how this goes. LeBron was already making finals. Like, you're already too deep by that time. Unbelievable.
So looking at the record for consecutive NBA finals appearances, the LeBron James has joined some exceptional company this year. So Bill Russell has 10 in a row. He has of course, has the record. Sam Jones and Tom Heinsohn each have 9 in a row. And then with 8 in a row, more Celtics, Casey Jones and Frank Ramsey, and LeBron James. LeBron James is among only 6 players with 8 or more consecutive NBA Finals appearances in their career, which is pretty incredible. Others who are in the top 10 is Bob Cousy, who has 7. James Jones, who has made 7 finals but only played in 6 because he did not play in the 2011 finals. So depending on how you count things there, he led his team to it, but he
led
was among the players who led his team.
I agree.
I mean, led is very loosely there.
James Jones, man. I mean, unbelievable. And LeBron, thankfully, this year has finally passed him, the elusive James Jones in finals appearances. So he's finally put James Jones in the rear view and can now focus on bigger and better guys like a Bill Russell or whatever. But yeah,
sure. And then Satch Sanders with 6 and Bill Sharman with 5 are the only ones with a 5 or more in a row. So that's obviously a tremendous clip, but mostly 60 Celtics involved. But LeBron and James Jones by proxy also in the club. So
pretty much Bill Russell and Bill Russell, Sam Joe. You can count. I mean, half those, a lot of the Celtics guys you can also count as well. But it's not like those guys we're mentioning. James Jones is obviously we're joking, but he's kind of a tag along. But these other guys all did play pretty substantial roles for the Celtics at some point or another. So it's not like because I think people sort of shrug those guys off as, they just tagged along with the Celtics or whatever. But all those guys played big roles. It's not James Jones did not. James Jones was just a guy that was there.
Yeah, I mean, and he had like leadership and was he brought stuff to the table that maybe wasn't on the playing floor, but yeah, he was obviously a marginal player, more of a Jim Luskinoff, completely different style of player, but sort of more role player and deserves some credit and some celebration for what he did, but obviously it's on a different level than what the other guys in this list were doing.
For sure. Let's get to here the only players with 4+ finals in a row over 2 franchises. So this is kind of interesting here. So over 2 franchises, here's kind of the caveat again. 4+ finals in a row over 2 franchises. You have LeBron James, the aforementioned James Jones, Steve Kerr, and Pep Saul. We'll get to Pep Saul here in a little bit because you've probably never heard of Pep Saul, but you're going to hear about him now. Really quickly, LeBron James, of course, does it with the Heat and the Cavs. James Jones, we mentioned, did not play in the 2011 NBA Finals, though he played 2 games in the Eastern Conference Finals versus the Bulls. So whether you want to count him or not, that's kind of up to you. Otherwise, though, 2012, he played 43 minutes that year. 2013, played 12 minutes that playoffs. 2000, what did I have? 2013, 12 minutes, 2014, 14 minutes, 2015, 113 minutes, an explosion for James Jones there. 2016, 20 minutes, 2017, 8 minutes. That's a total of 210 minutes. Just to give you an idea, LeBron James has played more than 210 minutes in 6 of his 7 straight NBA finals so far. So essentially, LeBron James has James Jones careers every single finals appearance. So, hey, as you said, leadership and being LeBron's friend can go a long way. So, hey. Good for him.
Yes. And Steve Kerr, who was one of 2 players along with Pep Saul who have won back-to-back titles with different teams. We'll get to more details on that. But Kerr did it in 96 through 99, the first 3 years with the Bulls and in 99 with the Spurs. In fact, he spent 3 years with the Spurs, then 1 year with the Blazers, and then came back in 2003 to win another ring with the Spurs. So has 5 in total as a player, plus a couple as a coach, maybe more coming. But yeah, good old Pep Saul from 51 to 54. He is actually Frank Benjamin Saul Jr., a shooting guard out of Seton Hall, was the first player to score 1,000 points at Seton Hall. And he only had a 6-year NBA career. Averaged 5.6 points per game, 2 rebounds per game, and 1.6 assists per game. And he is actually still alive. He's 94 years old. So good for Pep. I guess has a lot of pep to be alive.
I was going to make a Pep joke. I was going to make a Pep and a step joke, but you got it. Good. I'm glad somebody got it. So that's all right. That's a James Harden to Clint Capella alley oop that one of us had to nice. Land that alley oop, and we did. So.
Right, so that's good times. Yeah, I could not find how he got his nickname of Pep. So so if anyone knows wants to tweet us, that's don't know NFL trivia, but absolutely if you want to give us a nickname for Pep, so yes. I offer that. But he initially started as he was part of the 51 Rochester Royals team who beat the Minneapolis Lakers. We mentioned before George Mikan had a injury, I believe a broken leg in that series, and then they were able to beat the Knicks in the finals in 7 games despite almost blowing a 3-0 lead in that series. And on the Royals, he played with his former Seton Hall teammates Bobby Wanzer and Bob Davies. They liked Seton Hall there in Rochester. And there is a story from the Record, a Jersey paper, about from 2016, looking at where Pep Saul is now. And Saul was, of course, he just won the championship with the Royals in his second season, but he wasn't getting as much playing time as he wanted, so he asked to be traded. And says, I'm not going to play. I want to be traded within 72 hours. Hey, he was traded. In fact, he went to the Baltimore Bullets for the beginning of the 52 season. And the Baltimore Bullets were soon to be folded, so they were not doing well, but they had actually won the championship in 48, so they'd had some prior success. Not the same Bullets franchise as the current Wizards franchise, although if you want to link them in history, why not? No, any rules, go along, apparently. So, anyway, Pep Saw was with the Bullets for 39 games, and he went to the Lakers, and he helped them win the NBA championship. In fact, that was probably the highlight of his pro career, because he was pressed into a big service during the postseason. He averaged 11.3 points per game on 46% shooting, which is very good at the time. 2.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists per game in almost 41 minutes per game, and those all were nearly double his season averages. So I couldn't really find a reason why he played so much. There did not appear to be much of injury concern or what have you, but he was involved big time in that series, helped the Lakers win the championship there over the Knicks, and was also part of 53-54 teams to that one championship, so though his playing time eventually diminished. He went to the Milwaukee Hawks the next season, and during his only season there, he suffered a leg injury, decided to retire, and returned to North Jersey. He and his wife, who he had been married at the time 68 years, so I guess 69 years now, which is very nice. They raised 8 children, 4 boys and 4 girls, and he ran his insurance company in New Jersey for about 40 years before retiring at age 70. So, and as you mentioned, Saw and Kerr are the only players in NBA history to win back-to-back titles with different teams. I initially thought Robert Oria had done it, but he was actually on the Lakers in 2003 and the Spurs in 2004. I'm surprised he didn't get more flack for abandoning the Lakers in 2003 for the Spurs who had won the championship that year, front riding like Kevin Durant,
Exactly, but, right. Yeah, that's he kind of went, Ori went on the David West path, where it's just like, all right, who's the best team this year? I'm going there. I want to win some titles here. There was a little while as well where Eric Dampier, I guess, sort of did the same thing as well, but there was kind of the weird irony where like Dampier would leave, the Mavericks and go to the Heat, and then the Mavericks would beat the Heat in the finals or whatever. And and this year, he leaves the Lakers, goes to the Spurs, and the Spurs, lose, or obviously the Pistons win. But I guess it was probably good that he wasn't on the 04 Lakers. That was no fun for anybody. So probably made a good choice going to San Antonio there. But so a few more facts here. LeBron is one of only 7 players now to play in 9+ finals, 9+ NBA finals. Of course, you can't forget the Drew Gooden-led 2007 Cleveland Cavaliers team that played a series against San Antonio and then went home very quickly. But it still counts. It still counts as NBA finals appearances. So here's the guys. Of course, you have Bill Russell. He played in 12 NBA finals. He won 11 of them. Lost 1 of them, not bad. Sam Jones, he played in 11, won 10, lost 1. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he played in 10, won 6, lost 4. Tommy Heinsohn, he was in 9 NBA Finals, he won 8. Magic Johnson was in 9, he won 5. Jerry West was in 9, and he won 1. So he lost 8, so sorry, Jerry. For Jerry West. Yeah. Some of the other guys as well. So, of course, now we're going to add LeBron to that mix there with the 9. He so far has won. He's won 3 and lost 5. John Havlicek, he has 8. Casey Jones has 8. Tom Sanders has 8. Frank Ramsey has 8. Michael Cooper slides in on this list. He has 8 as well, with 5 wins. Derek Fisher as well comes in with 8 finals appearances. He won 5 rings. And then 7 guys. You have Robert Horry. He made 7. He won 7. So good. Good on Robert Horry, man. 7 for 7. Not bad at all. Bob Cousy, he made 7, won 6. Kobe Bryant made 7, won 5. And Elgin Baylor made 7 and won none of them. Sorry, Elgin. Poor Elgin Baylor. Yeah.
So, yeah. So getting we'll just dive a little bit into the matchup history between the Cavs and the Warriors here. 2015, this was the Warriors won this series in 6 games. It was a grueling series. The Cavs played some incredible slow down ball, and LeBron averaged 35.8 points, 13.3 rebounds, 8.8 assists for the series. Did not shoot particularly well, but was just carrying so much of a load on offense. Kevin Love was out the entire series due to an injury. Kyrie Irving missed the final 5 games of the series after he suffered a injury in Game 1. The Warriors, Andre Iguodala was able to be named the Finals MVP because he made things really tough on LeBron James, and despite not starting in the series until Game 4, and he had the third lowest scoring average of any Finals MVP in NBA history, was able to take that. Not a bad choice. I mean, you could make a case for other guys, including LeBron, frankly, but was sort of a historical oddity, obviously, in this series. But yeah, it was the Warriors were kind of the feel good story of this season to a degree. The Cavs, were probably had a schedule in terms of the development because they, despite having LeBron, were fairly young and inexperienced, but were able to. It was a good first battle here, and honestly, the Cavs were. Amon Jumper had a chance to, win game one with a three-pointer that I believe barely, banked out. So, they almost were up 3-0 in this series. Of course, that would have changed NBA history quite a bit had that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's a series that if you haven't really looked back in a while, it is pretty interesting to go and kind of check it out because, yeah, there's really, the Warriors, once they kind of figured things out, and one of the big things was, Draymond Green at center, and this was kind of the beginning of oh, wait a minute, like, we can play this way. Like, we don't have to have Andrew Bogut down low. We don't have to have, like, Draymond Green can be our center. That kind of changed everything. Iguodala comes into the series. He starts this, the fourth game. They pretty much don't look back after that point. But, that doesn't do enough to sort of talk about how great that series was at the beginning. First two games go to overtime. The Warriors win the first. The Cavs win the second. Cavs come back. They win the third. They're up 2-1 at a point in the series. It looked like, oh my God, the Cavs are going to do this. Like, the Warriors are kind of succumbing to the pressure. LeBron's been there before. He knows what's going on. And then it just became too much to handle. The Warriors just kind of figured it out. They got that extra gear. And LeBron obviously was worn down. And it was at a point where without Kyrie, they were able to win the one game, the miraculous second game. They were able to make, win a miraculous third game. But they had really slowed down by this point. Matthew Dellavedova had become one of the key players in that series. And that, like, he played really good, but it's like, you don't want, if Matthew Dellavedova is like your second best player, things are probably not going to go well. And that's kind of what happened as well. You had guys like a J.R. Smith who were fine, and Amon Shumpert, all these guys were fine, but it was just like, there was not much. And it's still considered, to me, it's one of the better, sort of miraculous things that LeBron has ever done is getting this, that team to win, 2 games in the NBA Finals and only lose 4-2. But yeah, pretty cool. LeBron has mentioned he averaged 35.8 points, 13.3 rebounds, and 8.8 assists in the series. So pretty incredible there. And Andre Iguodala, who did not start for the Warriors until Game 4, as I mentioned, he ended up becoming named Finals MVP, which is kind of caused some controversy at the time as well. He had a really good Game 6, and that sort of helped. And he played pretty good defense against LeBron, which is pretty funny when LeBron had 35, nearly 40 points and 13 rebounds and 9 assists, but that's good defense against him at that point. Interestingly enough, I think Iguodala had the third lowest scoring average of any Finals MVP in history after that series as well. So I know he a little controversy there for Iguodala winning it, but I guess it wasn't the worst in the world. He had a good series, and it was one of those ones where there was a lot of Warriors that did well, so it was like you kind of give it to everybody. So Iguodala had a standout Game 6, so they just gave it to him. So
yeah. So 2016, the rematch. The Warriors, really dominated in the first 2 games. It looked like they were going to take things handily, and then in Game 3 was a surprise, huge blowout for the Cavs, winning 120-90, and suddenly like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Of course, this was the year the Warriors had, they were 73-9 during the season, one of the most incredible teams ever, and they had the largest combined margin of victory, 48 in the first 2 games in that series. So there wasn't really any reason to worry. Steph Curry did not completely look like himself, but it didn't appear like he was, he dealt with some injuries, but it was like he was, going to be good enough where it wasn't going to be a problem. Game 4, the Warriors were able to take the 3-1 lead, but it was closer, 108-97. The Draymond Green was suspended after taking a shot at LeBron James in his in a certain region, and I'll be delicate about it.
Please do, please.
I'm being delicate about it. So yes. So and then from there, so just some ultimate dominant LeBron James performances, some of which we talked about in our last episode, and suddenly the Cavs have become a 3-1 lead and become the NBA champions, and they were the first champion to clinch all their playoff series on the road since the '99 Spurs, which is a fun fact, and they were the first road team to win a Finals Game 7 since the '78 Washington Bullets. So, and LeBron was the first NBA player in history to lead everyone in the playoff series in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. I think Julius Erving did it in the ABA, but LeBron was the only one so far to do it in the NBA. So fantastic stuff. And Tyronn Lue became the 14th coach to win an NBA championship as a coach and a player.
So good there. Yeah, I like that LeBron James points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. It's just unbelievable. But yeah, that's an all-time series there for sure. And that's obviously the Cavs come back. great stuff there. LeBron playing at the top of his game, and then also Kyrie and Love also playing as well. It was cool to see the Cavs at full power, to see sort of what they were able to do. And yeah, the Warriors seemed like they were kind of having some issues and struggling a little bit there, but hey, things happen and it all works. But then the next year they would cheat and get a sham world title by adding Kevin Durant. We've talked about this before. We're of course joking, but having Twitter arguments with people about this. But
you're joking.
Yeah, you're not.
No, I'm not
you're
joking.
dead serious.
I'm very mad about it.
Apparently, the Warriors won the finals this year in 5 games. They acquired Kevin Durant in the offseason, cheating the entire NBA and all of us.
Yeah.
And they, of course, blitzed the Cavs pretty handily. The Cavs won, what was it? They won the 4th game by a lot. It was like 137-116. And that was peak, like, Warriors. We don't really give a shit. Like, we're just going to win the next day anyway at home type thing. Yeah. And it was like, let's just win it at home. And they knew, like, this was a peak year for them, too. And we'll talk about it a little bit here. And I know we had a discussion about this last year, but the Warriors, they entered the 2017 finals. They became the first team in NBA playoff history to start 12-0, and the Cavaliers, they entered at 12-1. So this was like dominant teams. These were teams that just completely blitzed through the rest of their conferences to get to these NBA finals, and then the Warriors, of course, just capped it off by just absolutely controlling the rest of the series. They could have had an undefeated playoffs. They lost that game 4 as mentioned, but then they went back game 5, won easily, won the title at home. 15-0 start in the playoffs is the most consecutive postseason wins in NBA history, and their 16-1 record is the best winning percentage, 94.1% in NBA playoff history. So that's that was that. That was a sham, and we don't count it. Nobody counts it.
Yeah. Nope. It doesn't count. Wasn't real. Didn't happen. Yeah. So I guess this is the rare match. Well, I don't know. Do we count this one because Durant's still?
Yeah, Durant's on the team, so no, this is nothing. So yeah,
it's still a shame. So we shouldn't even like bring it up. The Cavs.
Yeah, what are we doing here? I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to delete this podcast. Sorry to waste your time. I'm out.
All right,
I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right.
All right.
I'll keep the part about Pep Sol, but everything else is going to get deleted.
All right, yeah. very. It's going to get a lot of downloads at Pep Sol. People are craving the Pep Sol content. Absolutely. So I'm sure they are. So how are you feeling about Cavs Warriors 4?
Yeah, as I mentioned kind of at the top, I'm into it. I like it. The problem, though, is that I just don't think that the Cavs have any chance in hell. But so that's kind of tempering my expectations a little bit. Is it's like, oh, cool, it's going to be fun, it's going to be this, and it's like, oh man, the Warriors are just going to kill them. But I don't know. The Warriors are, they're still very good, and they're obviously a better, way more talented, more cohesive team than the Cavs, but there's some cracks showing there. And like, I don't know if LeBron really wants to just like completely, I don't know if he's got the energy to do it anymore, but I'm sick of ever saying that. I can't say that ever again about LeBron. Like, I don't know if LeBron's got it in him. Like, he obviously has it in him to do whatever he needs to do. I mean, part of me thinks it's going to be just a Warriors domination, but I don't know, man. The Cavs, I don't know. I'm trying to convince myself it's not going to be the Warriors completely destroying them, but I think it might be. But I don't know. Maybe there's some cracks in the Warriors. It'd be kind of fun to see, Durant and Draymond come to blows and that whole thing sort of, get weird. And like the Warriors still probably win the series one way or another, but I'd like to see the Cavs make it interesting, and I think there's a chance that they could make it a little interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a small chance, but the Cavs are clearly a significantly worse team than last year without Kyrie, despite, how amazing LeBron is playing. And obviously Love has been out a bunch and has been limited, and, he's had the concussion. So how soon he'll be able to play and how effective he'll be is a question. Of course, he doesn't really match up great with the Warriors anyway, although he did very well in 2016. I don't know. I mean, the Warriors do not seem like they seem like they're capable of being the old, like, dominant, like, just destroy everybody Warriors, but they kind of like pick and choose when to do it rather than doing it, most of the time. So whether that's just an issue of cohesiveness or them trying to, not having quite the same energy, being a bit older, whether it's, I don't know if they're, they were blasé at times during the Rocket series, and it almost cost them. But at the same time, we were able to put dominating performances in the last 2 games and able to take that series. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, my hope is it's competitive. I would be very surprised. I would give the Warriors like probably a 90% chance to win the series. My hope is that it is competitive. I don't particularly care who wins. I guess it's more interesting if the Cavs win slightly, but either way, it's I don't have much rooting interest in this one. I'm so for some good basketball.
Yeah, it's kind of fun that I've gotten to this point now in my NBA fandom, and I think this podcast has helped a lot too. Where I'm like, because everyone's like, oh, who are you rooting for? And I'm just like, I just want good basketball, man. I don't care. Like, it's something's gonna happen, and it's gonna be historic, and it's gonna be fun to talk about. I don't really, it doesn't really matter to me who wins which one or whatever. If the Warriors win, then like they've created a little bit of a dynasty here, and obviously we could talk about that, except for, of course, negating both the titles because Durant's on the team. But, like, all joking aside, like, then they become, and it's not like they aren't already there, but, if the Cavs come and win, that's a big deal. Now it's like, all right, well, the Warriors should have won this. Like, why did they not win more titles? Like, that's going to kind of be the talk about that. Whereas, then it'll be like a surprise. Oh my God, I can't believe LeBron won the title for that team. So there's storylines, there's something to kind of dig into. There's something to sort of sink your teeth into with any sort of results. So that's where I kind of like with my fandom now. It's like, I want good basketball. And at the end of the day, I can make, a fun story and make a fun, historical perspective about any result that sort of happens. And that's kind of fun to do. So, it's healthy. It's made my NBA fandom a little bit more healthy. I don't get upset anymore when, like, the team that I decided, even though it's like not my home team, I love, like, like the Kings. When the Kings lost, like, I don't really care about the Sacramento Kings, but I loved, like, the Weber Peja team. And when they lost to the Lakers, I was, like, upset. I was, like, pissed off. And I was like, oh, the NBA referees, they're all crooked or whatever. Like, but, mature me is just like, hey, I just want good basketball. And I just, whatever happens, I'm going to, enjoy one way or another. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
I just want Pep Saul to be happy. So, whoever he's rooting for, I'm rooting
let's get Pep on the line. I'm sure Reynes has, like, talked to him at some point from the Handle podcast. Like, he's definitely done, like, numerous interviews with him. So we'll have to see if
I'm sure he's tried. So we'll see how that, we'll have to ask him to add him to his
right.
list.
So if he's got his number, find out, slide the DMs. I'm sure Pep Saul has an Instagram or whatever. You can slide into Pep Saul's Instagram and ask him what team he's rooting for. What out of New Jersey, like, who would he? I wonder. Yeah, who would he root for? He probably doesn't like the Warriors. Well, I don't know if he likes the Warriors. Yeah, no, I bet he's a Cavs guy. I bet he's a Cavs guy.
Yeah, well, I don't know. The Warriors existed as a franchise when he was in the league, and the Cavs did not. So he doesn't have. There's probably some animosity there with the the Philly Warriors. I don't know. Maybe.
Right.
So,
or he doesn't like this newfangled expansion Cavaliers team. So maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Man, let too many teams in the league these days.
Right. Yeah,
a team in Cleveland. Right. Like, what?
What? Ridiculous.
They don't have enough people. Yeah.
And we've gone from lionizing to making fun of.
I'm so sorry, Pep. I'm so
30
sorry,
seconds.
Pep.
So all right. If you're listening, Pep, we apologize. All right. Anyway, so thanks everyone for checking us out. You can find us at Fansided NBA, also known as the Step Back. Either way, you can find us there, and we're getting some great stuff there, of course, for the NBA Finals. And as the offseason ramps up, there's going to be some more even amazing stuff around the draft and free agency and such. So be sure to check that out. And if you like us and you want to rate us, we'd appreciate it. iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen to your podcast, pretty much we're there, and we can use your support. So do that. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Over and Back NBA. Anything else, Rich?
I think that's it. Yeah, and as we always say, if there's a podcast app that you use and we're not on, just let us know, and we will make sure that we're on that. If there's some weird one that we, for some reason, are not on, let us know, and we will make sure we get that on there right away at Over and Back NBA. Also, Over and Back on Facebook as well. We got some good stuff going on there, some good discussions throughout the playoffs, and then hopefully as the offseason gets going. The kind of offseason is one of our seasons, so we're still trying to kind of figure out what we're going to do. We have some ideas what we're doing this summer, but we'll obviously hopefully be able to reveal that pretty soon with what we're doing. But yeah, always check it out, because we love our off season, and that's when we kind of a lot of times we'll hone in on like one sort of topic or one theme and really drive that home and really do some good stuff with that. So keep your eye out for that coming pretty soon. But yeah, over at Overback NBA on Twitter, Over and Back on Facebook, and then if there's a podcast app that we're not on, please let us know, and we'll make sure we're on it.
All right. So thanks everyone for listening, and we're back again soon.